Hey everyone, Rho here. Today we discuss the Blood Angels and the Curse of the Blood. How Belisarius Cawl's Primaris have not saved their legacy. General spoiler warning to begin, as the events we are discussing today are from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so you have been warned. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Now, the devastation of Baal was perhaps the most defining moment for the Sons of Sanguinius, undoubtedly since the Siege of Terra itself. The full force of Hive Fleet Leviathan bore down on the Blood Angels' homeworld, and only through the efforts and sacrifice of virtually every single chapter of the Blood was their legacy spared. It was in the final moments of this almighty battle that Rabute Guilliman and his Indomitus fleets arrived in system, clearing out the remnants of the Xeno menace, and immediately commencing the rebuild of the Blood Angels chapter. A huge portion of this was the new Primaris creations, the sons descended from the gene seed of Sanguinius. With such catastrophic losses suffered during the conflict, most of the Blood Angels' original firstborn had been lost, and there was believed to be less than 200 sons remaining alive. So it was the Primaris truly represented the future of the chapter. Now, at the end of the novel Devastation of Baal by Guy Haley, which I've raved about countless times over the years, we see Gabriel Seth warn Dante of these new creations, believing them to not be true sons of Sanguinius, merely Guilliman's attempts to replace the lines of all his brothers. However, Dante is visibly infused at these new warriors, hopefully believing that with them lies the cure to the Blood Angels' flaws. No longer would the rage and thirst plague their chapter in years to come. The flaw would die out with the remaining firstborn Marines. However, by the time we next see Dante within the novel Darkness in the Blood, also by Guy Haley, he is very aware the Primaris are not the true cure he had dared to hope they were. As a representative of Belisarius Cawl arrives to inform Dante of the new successful Rubicon procedure, the process in which to elevate Firstborn to Primaris. Dante makes no bones about informing him of Belisarius's failure, and it's quite an interesting little conversation between the two, as Dante doesn't even attempt to hide his disappointment, making no bones about it, telling him that Cawl has undoubtedly failed in his attempt to fix the cure. However, while Belisarius undoubtedly tinkered with the Angel's gene seed, and it may well have been hinted at that the flaws had been eradicated, the truth was that Belisarius did not attempt to remove the flaws in their gene seed, as he came to the absolute conclusion that the Emperor very much intended for them to be this way. And exactly the same for other so-called cursed bloodlines, such as the Sons of Rus. And so that's the answer that Dante receives from Belisarius's tech priest, except he masks it behind the words, "His master's attempts could not be successful," going on to explain to Dante that the savagery was engineered into their legion, and all the flaw does is essentially further heighten it. To try to remove that would be to eradicate everything the Blood Angels are. Quite simply, it's impossible. Now, the lone voice that was always against this impossible hope of a cure was Asterath, the High Chaplain of the Blood Angels, the man responsible for seeking out those fallen to the rage, putting an end to their misery. And it's thanks to him that the news essentially broke of the Primaris not being the cure after all. And we get to witness those events in the novel Asterath, Angel of Mercy, again by Guy Haley. And obviously spoiler warning as we go on here. Asterath, hearing the call of the damned as only he could, was drawn to a world manned by the Red Wings chapter, a Blood Angel's successor. Having been almost completely wiped out during the fight against Leviathan, the chapter were now made up almost entirely of Primaris, recruits from the former unnumbered sons of Guilliman. And what's absolutely fascinating about this is that we get to see how much these Primaris just don't know about their lineage. The squad of Red Wings fighting upon this Imperial world have obviously suffered from a situation involving the Black Rage, hence why Asterath has been drawn to the world. 6 of their brothers have fallen to the madness, and only one was able to be stopped, as in killed. The other 5 still at large somewhere, massacring their way into the wilderness. Now the Red Wings have kept the body of the one they took down, because they don't quite know what to do with it. And when they're showing Asterath and his entourage the body, it's revealed they haven't even harvested the gene seed, because they were worried the madness might contaminate whoever it got passed on to. And I really enjoyed this moment, because it was a really everyday human reaction. These godlike warriors, so often we see just autonomously going about their business, all the knowledge they need ingrained within them. Death is simply part of the process. Harvest the gene seed and keep going. Yet here, they are genuinely at a loss, and it really humanizes them in a way. The manner of the death is a complete shock to them. To the Blood Angels, it's the simplest thing in the world, but to the Red Wing Primaris, they just didn't know what to do. I really like this kind of development with the Primaris. It's a little different for the ones who have been created by a chapter, of course, but these former unnumbered sons of Guilliman's fleets really are entirely new to the ways of their bloodlines. Let's be honest, they've basically been treated like ultramarines for the entire crusade. Sure, they may be coloured and formed into their legion's lineages, but they've been taught pretty much a standard method of Astartes war, and also that way of life. It's along the same lines as we saw within the Dawn of Fire novel, The Wolf Time, by Gav Thorpe, where the Primaris Marine Gaius is eagerly dreaming of reuniting with the Space Wolf chapter, but he couldn't be any less a son of Russ if he tried. And when he finally reached the chapter of his legacy, they make it pretty clear to him. And a side note, for me that's a particularly good storyline, even if you're not necessarily a Space Wolf fan. Seeing how these unknowing Primaris incorporate into their new chapters, the boundaries that they have to overcome, despite being of the same blood. Now they are truly within the bloodlines, they begin to see the truths of their heritage. But particular for the Sons of the Blood in the aftermath of the devastation, a lot of the chapters are almost completely new in all but name. And so that induction and instruction doesn't come as quickly and freely as expected. For the former unnumbered sons of Sanguinius's bloodline, a lot of it is left to learning on the job. The ironic thing is, the curse of course absolutely is passed along inside the gene seed. So from a certain point of view, they were kind of right. though it doesn't stop one of Asterath's entourage having a bit of a laugh at their expense. But it's then that the truth is really revealed. As Asterath questions the Red Wings, one of the men reveals he's seen it before during the Indomitus Crusade. So all the promise of the Primaris possibly being a cure, that the hope of them never having fallen, was simply not true. It was all a lie. They had been falling, reliving their Primarch's final moments, the entire time. They simply didn't know what it was. To them, it's simply the work of the enemy. At the height of the Indomitus Crusade, a few brothers falling to madness is the least of their problems. Sanguinius's legacy is the most closely guarded secret of the Blood Angels and their successors. They reveal it to no one outside their bloodline. In fact, back in Darkness in the Blood, Dante makes a bit of a subtle threat to Cawl's tech priest, when the mere notion of Cawl knowing the secrets is brought up. The Blood Angels are not happy that Cawl knows. So really we do have to realise these sons of Sanguinius within the Indomitus fleets were fighting the entire time, watching their brothers fall to the Black Rage, having absolutely no idea it was the curse of their bloodline, simply thinking it was the work of the ruinous powers. They're only beginning to realise now, after being merged into the existing chapters, where they are finally being told the truth. If, of course, they are lucky enough to go into a chapter that wasn't completely obliterated during the fight against Leviathan. It's quite ironic, really, that so many of the original Firstborn were disapproving of these new Primaris, believing them to not be true sons of Sanguinius for not suffering his flaws, or on the other side filling themselves with hope that they were the chapter's salvation. And yet it's their own secret that was the reason for it. If the secret was widely known outside the chapters, the Primaris within the Indomitus fleet would have known from the outset that they were suffering from the Black Rage. Now, I'm not saying the Blood Angels should have revealed their flaws by now. I think we know the Imperium hasn't always exactly been the most lenient of empires. Would they really have wiped out perhaps the most famous Space Marine chapter, the descendants of the sainted angel himself? It certainly would have been a tough situation for the Inquisition to be in. But they did go to war against the Space Wolves, so really it doesn't look good in the Blood Angels' favour. However, regardless, the simple fact is, Dante's hopes and disappointment, Seth's outright rejection, it really was no fault of the Primaris themselves, merely the Angels' own secrets. But as always everyone, what do you think? Are you surprised by the fact that the Primaris of the Indomitus fleets was suffering from the Black Rage all along? That they simply didn't have the knowledge to know what was transpiring? Would you be interested to see how other Primarch bloodlines fared within the Indomitus Crusade? Maybe some of the more outlier types, the White Scars, the Iron Hands, maybe even the Salamanders and Raven Guard. See how their experience is when they're reunited with their founding chapter. I think that would be very interesting. I know I'm biased, but I'd particularly like to see the White Scars. However, as always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. If you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too? But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.